So welcome, and it is a huge pleasure to have all of you here. My name is Erica Zarate. I am Quechua Canadian, Indigenous from Peru, and also half Canadian, living in Spain, and working with Resilience Earth, which is a cooperative of activists, researchers, and consultants who work on change adaptation in changing times. So I'll just introduce really quickly. Today we have Oscar as the co-trainer. We are a team of 6 people, as well as Alex, who is our fiercely technically oriented and wonderfully capable coordinator. So thank you very much, Alex, for taking this job on. And so I don't know, I'll pass it on to Oscar first, and then to Alex, and then we'll share a mural link with you just to go over the agenda for the session. So it's a 2-hour session. It's going to be quite light in terms of content. We'll really deep dive into it starting mostly from the next Monday and onwards, because we would like to adapt it, tailor it as much as possible to the fields of your interests. We have a lot of different examples to draw from, and what we like to do is just get a sense of the group, and if we see that there's a lot of people interested, for example, in social economy, we can pull out more examples on social economy, or in human rights, or in conflict zones, etc. So really, you guys are leading in the content, and we create the space and we facilitate with the frameworks. So I'll pass it on to Oscar and then to Alex, and then we'll get into the course outline and student or the participant introductions. Oscar.
Cool, thank you. My name is Oscar Buseña. I'm member of the Resilience Earth Co-op, and we are a co-op of 10 people that we work on regenerative development, social and solidarity economy, and community resilience. And as a co-op, we also are part of the Community Catalyst Network. That it's a network of 7 organizations of different parts of Europe that we are researching in ways of catalyzing change at local level, and specifically oriented for rural communities and rural regions. As we believe as a consortium, as a network, that the change, the transition that we're living, and the shift that actually these days we're seeing and we're living, it's going to be led by rural communities and not by cities. Just because the rural communities are much more adaptable and capable of letting emerge all the change that we need to happen in the next decade. And this course, it's in a way to put in practice all the research that we had been doing for the last 3 years and see if it's useful or not. We are using it in our day-by-day work, and we're going to be showing examples of the outcomes that these methodologies are bringing, and hopefully they're going to be as useful for you as it is for us. Then, Alex, I'm going to pass you the ball.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Alex Espuña. I work as a communicator for Resilience Earth, and I'm the coordinator of this training. I'm very happy to see people from so many different countries here today. I've been reading all your presentations, and I have to say that it looks like it's going to be a very nice training. And first of all, I want to tell you a few rules that we will have to follow here on Zoom during the sessions. The first one is that when you enter the Zoom and when the trainers speak, you should have your microphones in silence. That's how you are doing now. Then please keep your camera turned on as much as you can. The third one is write your name and surname in your video profile so we can know who you are. And the fourth one is it would be great if you can divide your screen into parts, one for the Zoom and the other one for the tasks that we'll do during the session. And to participate, we use hand signs to participate. It's really easy. This means technical point. This means information point. This means clear proposal. This means opinion. This means agree. This means disagree. This means no opinion, repetition, and silent applause. So, well, you have all these rules in the Slack channel named #internal rules. So you can have a look at them whenever you want. If you have any questions, you can send them in the chat and we will try to answer them during the training. And all the questions that are not answered during the sessions will be answered during the week in Slack. If you have any questions after the session, you can send them to the Slack channel #module1 before Thursday. And to know the rules that we will follow in the Slack, please take a look at #internal rules section. And well, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. Kevin's into it already. That's wonderful. So I'll pass it on then to Oscar in just a moment. If you can let me know with your hands up, thumbs up or thumbs down, if everybody is accessing this call today on their computer, or if they have access to a computer. Let me see. Okay, so there's some people on cell phones. I'm going to pass a link right now, which is to a Mural board. And in theory, but sometimes people with cell phones have a little bit of difficulty entering, but there are some workarounds with that. In theory, oops, I sent it to the waiting room. It's mobile friendly. Do not put your email in when you click into this Mural. Okay, so you will be going into a platform which is an interactive canvas. Not that I want to sell it or anything, but it is free for nonprofits. So if you like it, you can apply for a free nonprofit license. We use it a lot, and it's really, really helpful in these COVID times to do online trainings. Okay, so if you go in to the Mural, I'll finish up with the logistical points that Alex had kindly kickstarted for us. So I will do a share screen and just give you a 2-minute tutorial on how to use Mural. But again, with the people who are on cell phones, if you are having any difficulties, then we can also do a bit more share screen to make it more accessible to everybody. Okay. All right. So this is Mural. This will get you into, this is what you'll probably see when you're first clicking into that picture. If you go to the right-hand side, there's a hand, which means that you can move the canvas much more easily, okay? So that's sometimes helpful, especially at the very beginning. If you go up, there's a box with 3 dots and 3 lines called the outline. And then, so here we will be saying, okay, we're right now in chapter 1 of the outline, and you can zoom in to or slide 1. To where we are if you've lost us, okay? So we have today 6 items that we wanted to cover. If we have time, and if not, we will just go with the flow and go over 5. And here we have the agenda, which I will present in just a moment, and then give the floor over to Oscar on the actual description of WeLand itself. Okay, so if you want to comment or, oops, sorry, you have to unclick the hand to go back to the arrow. But if you want to, for example, put a post-it somewhere, then you can click onto the post-it and drag it with this cross and write something. You could write questions, you can write comments, etc. This is an interactive canvas again, and we love people to play with it. So play, hack, everything. We're very pleased to provide this canvas also as open source that you can copy for your own use. Okay, same with, if you go a few down, here are a whole bunch of stickers that you can grab when we invite you to stick stickers onto parts of the canvas. And I think I'll leave it at that if there are no major questions at this point. Has everybody been able to enter? Yeah. Okay, I see lots of fingers up. Thumbs up is good. Okay. If you have any troubles, write it in the chat and Alex can help you. There are just a couple tricks if you're having a little bit of difficulty, especially if you're coming from a cell phone. But Alex is our super crack for that. Okay, so again, the agenda for today then, now that I have the screen still sharing, is we're going to be doing the introduction, explanation of logistics, and then we pass it on to Oscar, who will to Alex, who will share a video of called Creating the Soil, and Oscar will follow up on the we land as the structure of the course. Again, we're covering 4 topics: community resilience, regenerative development from a holistic perspective, social solidarity economy, as well as communication for transformation. But we're going to be doing it in 6 steps. So at each step, we'll cover these topics to a certain degree, okay? And some days we'll focus a little bit more on one or the other, depending on the day. But overall, it's going to be quite transversal. The next activity that we're going to be doing is called a sociogram. Where are we from? And we'll explain how to do that later. And I just wanted to mention a little other element that's unique to this course. It's one of the first times we're doing it. We're super excited, is that we will also be giving you the detailed explanation of the activities that we do, how we're facilitating or how we're teaching. And we can also give you little tips during the training itself over the next 12 weeks of why, right? So a little bit of we will state the explicit objectives, the open objectives at the beginning, and then at the end we'll say this is also really helpful because X, Y, Z, for example. Okay, next we'll have a cushy breakout room with groups of around 4 people, where you get to discuss your 10 milestones and 3 topics, and then we collect the 3 topics in a Mentimeter. And then we'll get into the regenerative development spiral and then do what we call a clopening. So a closing and an opening. So a bit of a gathering what we've learned and building towards the next Monday. Any questions about the agenda or logistics so far? And you can shout out or put it in the chat. Okay, all right, super. So I will pass it on to Alex then to share the intro video to the We Land, and then Oscar will follow up with a narrative explanation using the graphic. Oh, Alex, I think there's a problem with the sound. Sorry.
Sorry, let's see now if it works.
Me know if
Yes or no?
No, not yet. No. What happened? Sometimes, Alex, if you just leave, if you don't silence yourself and up the volume of your computer, then we can listen to it a bit better. It depends on how we manage and sustain complexity and how we can become co-responsible. The world is changing, and the change is accelerating, but the outcome of this transformation is not written yet. It depends on how we manage and sustain complexity and how we can become co-responsible for life itself. We are the people called to change our land in a regenerative way, and this is a tool to help us do so. The We Land, Making Sense of Place, is a pattern language journey following the torus flow, a natural pattern that we can see in many places in nature. Once you enter this process, you become a change catalyst, conscious of the system you are working from. We didn't come into this world, but rather we come from it. Most of the challenges we are facing are related to our separation from the natural rhythms and processes. With We Land, we want to help communities reconnect with place and with the rhythm of life. We enter the different dimensions of We Land by starting at the soil dimension. At this point, it's important to make sure that the space, the facilitation tools, the process, and the goals are really clear for the whole group. The next dimension is landscape integrity inquiry, where we reconnect with place, where we belong, and which embodies what we are. The community engagement dimension is about co-sensing who the community is, as well as its relationship to the land that defines it. We then dive deep into the identity naming dimension, where our emerging identity becomes more clear, evolving what we are to what we may become. We now have a clear foundation to move into the co-design dimension, in which together with our community, we co-create strategies for landscape and community regeneration so that we can take responsibility for how we become. Finally, the regeneration dimension is where we express the whole process. This is done by implementing the clear and specific actions that we have designed to help us create regenerative livelihoods. However, a torus is a never-ending process where there is no beginning and no end. So, after the implementation of the regeneration dimension, we can prepare the soil again for coming cycles of the We Land. Here, we can reflect upon how we have changed and what we are now, launching us into another exciting journey of change and evolution in tune with the rhythm of life.
Great. Was that clear, the stuff you see in the video? Yeah? Awesome.
Yes.
Perfect. Then is it better if to talk a little bit more about the We Land? I'm gonna share my screen for the people that is actually in the cell phone. And as you see, let's make it different, Eric, because I can't see any face. Can you share the screen? This way I can see faces while I'm talking. Great, better. Then, who knows what the torus is? Yeah, no one else? What this torus shape that we're talking about is? Does it resemble anything special? Anything that you have in your normal life? This is an interesting shape because we can see from the smallest part of life to the biggest one, from the micro to the macro. It's a shape that we can see at the atomic level, from the structure of the atoms, that we can see it in an apple, we can see it in an orange, we can see it in a tree. how the branches leave the leaves into the roots, creating the same shape. And also we can see it in the electromagnetic field of the planet Earth, or actually in the whole structure of the galaxy. It's something that is actually, it's a pattern that goes towards all different layers of life, all different levels of life, of complexity. That's why we choose this pattern to be able to symbolize what regeneration is. Have you heard about regeneration? Yeah? Yeah, it's becoming more and more popular, right? The word regeneration, but do you know exactly what it is? What's the difference between regeneration and sustainability? Could someone jump and give me like a quick difference between, what's the difference between regeneration and sustainability?
Regeneration is creating value.
Thank you, Gerard. That's actually a great answer. Sustainability, it's looking for balance, and regeneration, it's looking to create value. That's the main difference. Then what we see when we look at the torus as the wheel and torus, it's a cycle, right? It's a never-ending cycle, kind of in a spiral shape that we express it here into a torus. But there's 6 main steps. The creating soil, it's the methodology. It's the space that you create to be able to talk about it, to be able to engage people into it. If you talk about an organization, it's the space and the methodology that you're going to use to actually work with the organization and be able to evolve with them, or with a community in a municipality. It's exactly the same methodologies, simply you change it a little bit depending on the context. And in the creating soil, that's what we're going to be talking more. It's the frameworks, the main frameworks that we're going to have to use, and some of the methodologies. Because it's online, we're not going to be able to share so many facilitation tools that you can use presentially in a community or in an organization, but we're going to be sharing different frameworks. The second one, the landscape integrity, it's actually engaging in what are we? But if we look into a regenerative perspective, we have to understand that we are part of the region where we live in. We emerge from the region that we live in, right? Like we are living in a ball that is floating in the middle of the universe that had been evolving for millions of years. And this evolution had been creating different ecosystems. The different ecosystems are completely defined by the geology and the morphology or the space that they're set, right? Then it depends if you're in a north side or a south side of a mountain, the ecosystem is completely different. And in the different parts of the planet, when the people get to these places, the culture, it's completely based on where they're before, but not only in the ecosystem. And if there's a lot of trees, then there's going to be a lot of carpenters, because that's the resource you have, and that's what you learn how to use to evolve a culture. But also, if you're in the north side or the south side of the mountain, that is already defining a different soil changes in the culture that you're living in. Then whatever we're working on, and if it needs to be regenerative, means that it needs to be emerging, it's going to have to be set in nested systems. You know what I mean when I say nested systems? Nested systems, it's the name that we use to say that I am a system, that I'm part of a bigger system, that it's my family, my organization, my group of friends. This system, it's nested in a bigger system, that it's a community, whatever, and then you keep going bigger and bigger. Those are nested systems. That one, it's part of the next and the next and the next. These nested systems, they all follow different patterns, right? And they're coherent. Then if I have certain patterns, those patterns, you're going to be able to see them in the organization, and then in the community, and then in the nation, and so on, right? Then this is what we are going to be engaging in, the what are we? We are part of the land, part of the community, and part of the organization that we are belonging. Once that's clear, and that's very important because that's the main point to not fall in colonization. You all guys know that globalization had brought colonization to an extreme, and now colonization is all over the world in very different shapes. When we talk about glocalizing, it's about reconnecting with the source, with the place. That's why when we call it Wieland, it's Wieland, making sense of place. It's actually reconnecting with the place and trying to emerge from there. Because if not, we fall into recolonizing the place. That's something that happens very often. When we are at who are we, then we don't focus so much in the place, well, in the territory, but what we focus is in the community. In who are we, it's about being able to put different people of a community, of the organization, in a room and start sensing and dialoguing about about who are we, and really starting to define the purpose of the organization and the community, to really connecting with the common, the purpose that brings us together. In the organization, it's clear that it's something that brings us together. In a community, it's a little bit different, because when you go to the community, that purpose, it's already there. And before you're born or before you move into the community, that purpose is already there. Clearly, when you move into it, you change the purpose a little bit because it's an organic thing that adapts. But still, it's something that it's rooted into place. And it's really interesting to be able to find out what's that, because that's what we have to actually connect with to be able to emerge something in a regenerative process. When that's more or less clear, we can go on and start finding out about what do we wish to become. When the purpose is clear, it's a moment that we start finding out which are the different strategies that we can create together. Where is it? How? It's about being accountable of our own evolution, right? It's like there is no good or bad, there's nowhere to go. The only thing that we need to have clear is how do we want to evolve? One of the things that regeneration brings, the part of sustainability, the main goal of sustainability is to avoid collapse. The main goal of regeneration is to leave collapse obsolete and behind, to focus in things, to focus in a paradigm that it's way beyond collapse. And therefore, what we're looking for is to create something that goes beyond the paradigm that we're living right now, and that it's fighting against the collapse situation that we're living. Here we can create strategies that are rooted to place and that are based on guilt. When these strategies are more or less set and we can name the identity of our community, we move on into co-design, in how do we become, how are we going to implement those strategies, but collectively, in a non-hierarchical way, but also not horizontal, because we have different ways. Like hierarchical, it's very efficient, but it's clearly not just. And horizontal is very equalitarian, but not so efficient. And how can we do it to make that this group effort goes smooth, fast, efficient, and to the point respecting the singularities of everyone, and co-designing, because we are all designers. We just have to reconnect with it. And the last step of this, it's becoming. It's like implementation. How can we implement this regenerative process in a completely decentralized way, based where everyone is doing different things without the need of giving explanation, and based on trust, right? And from here, there's the opening where we actually reconnect, and in that point we can again ask ourselves, what are we? But what are we right now after the whole cycle? What did we become? Is there questions about this?
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Going back to, because you were saying a lot of things. Yes, going back to number 2, to what are we?
Yeah.
You said that reconnecting with the place, it is decolonizing. And then you said about globalization, but I didn't understand exactly what.
What globalization is.
I understand what globalization is, but like I don't know, I kind of like didn't understand the link, I think, with reconnection with the place.
Okay,
And
let me see. Okay, let me see if I answer that properly. Like globalization had been a process that we lived in the last several decades, where colonization had went to the extreme, and that colonization is all over the place. It's even inside us. Like we're not aware of how colonized we are, right? But now we are focusing in the process of localizing. Like we're like globalizing. It's if it's this word that had been used a lot in the last years. It doesn't say localizing because we cannot get rid of the globalization. The globalization came here to stay. We can localize as much as possible, as much as we want, but we're still going to be globalized. Then being aware of the colonization that we had suffered and reconnecting with the place to actually trying to heal the communities that we are part from, knowing that the connection with the whole globe, it's something that we're not going to get rid of, but maybe and even probably we can make it in a very good way that it's actually helping each other to grow in an intercultural dialogue. Did
yes,
I
perfect.
answer?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Great. Is there any other question about the process?
May I ask,
yes.
just as a
Go ahead.
continuation to this, what was asked now, then in one moment you said that we fall into recolonizing the place if we do what?
We fall into recolonizing the place when we follow ideologies.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, like in many cases now it's a moment that a lot of people from the urban settlements are moving into rural communities or rural regions, and that's great. That's awesome. That's exactly what probably needs to happen. But sometimes these people goes with a mindset that already knows exactly what needs to happen, which steps need to be followed to go to a certain utopia, certain ideology. That's colonization, because you're imposing a certain idea, a certain abstraction to a reality, a reality that had been created for ages. Then it's important to try to focus on in the co-sensing stage, the co-sensing dimension. Like, I'm going to ask one question. Yeah, Erica tells me that I need to finish. One last thing. When you have a headache or a bellyache, do you think about what did you eat, or do you think about which emotions could create that bellyache or headache? What do you think about the most? Yeah, give me one or two. What about the rest of the people? Do you think about what you ate or about which emotions created that situation? Okay, there's more and more people. Maybe both. Yeah, both probably it's the best option. Many people start to not only looking at what we eat or very physical things when we feel bad, but they're starting to feel, to sense our body and to sense it in an emotional way, which emotions are actually affecting us, and being more and more aware of that process, right? It's like that it's bringing, not living so much from the mind, but also from the emotions and the body. That's internally. Very interesting. It gives you a lot of information. We have to be aware of what we eat, obviously, but also we need to be aware of our emotions and how it's our body feeling. But we can do that also outwards. Like climate change, it's nothing more than a community headache. It's a community bellyache. What we need to do is to sense the nature around us, because that is giving information about the health and the behavior of our community. When we try to sense our headache, what we do is to sense the emotions, to be able to move a little bit out to a more healthy position. If we start feeling and sensing the nature around us, it's going to help us also to be able to move little by little into a behavior that it's much more in balance with that nature. And then we start seeing, oh, when I do this, nature does that. When I do this, nature does this other thing. Do you see? And then you can start dancing a little bit with nature. We're going to focusing a little bit on that when we're in that dimension. I'm going to pass it. If there's not like a really burning question, I'm going to pass it to Erica. Okay, then it's all yours.
All right, so just if you can hear me okay. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so just maybe to conclude, and thank you very much, Oscar, for that really, really detailed explanation. We are going to be spending the next 12 weeks really diving deeply into this model. Okay, so this is kind of a really brief introduction, but we will be going step by step into soil, landscape, cone sensing, identity, co-design, and regeneration over the next 12 weeks. Okay, and today we're going to kick off with soil, and so soil is all about introductions. All right, this is critical. This is so important, and I saw in lots of the profiles, a lot of you are teachers, educators, students, in the education field in some way. So, which is why we would like to explain a little bit of the how and why we are doing the activities that we've selected today. The first activity is going to be a sociogram. So that is slide 3 in the mural. So you can click there and zoom straight to the mural. This is an activity that you can actually do in person. It's so much fun. You can literally say this space, it can be a park outside, it can be a community hall, it can even be a classroom, and say, imagine this is the world. And so you define where north, south, east, and west are, and ask people to position themselves. So here I'm going to invite you to grab a star and draw yourself to where you identify as being from. I think I might have made the stars too big, so if you want to make them smaller, please go for it too. Or if you want to bring out a different sticker, you can also go to the icon pull out. There's all sorts of fun things here. I think there's like several hundred options: light bulbs, hearts, fires, bombs, eyes, etc. So it's up to you. I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. And if you want to just make your star distinct, you just right click it and you can make it a different color. If you're having trouble placing stars or stickers or whatnot, you can also just put it in the chat and either Alex or myself can position a star on your behalf.
I will do it, Erica, no problem.
Gracias, Alex. Okay, has everybody had a chance to position themselves yet? Okay, wait for one other person. And so while we're waiting for the last couple of people, I'd like you to start thinking about two questions. And these are two questions we often ask. What are the patterns that you see? So any tendencies, any trends? And what are the outliers or interesting differences that you see in this map? And maybe if you want to, you can either put it in the chat or in the or shout out as well. We have a couple minutes to do a bit of a reflection here. Any observations?
A lot from the EU.
Yeah, a lot from the EU. And who was talking? Sorry. You want to say your name before you talk? That would be wonderful. That way we get to get familiar with
I'm Federico.
Federico.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you. Okay, any other observations? I see there's one star here in the Pacific Ocean. So I don't know if it refers to an island. But I see a few interesting outliers here, and there's another star out here, which I'm not sure if that's also an island as well. Maybe if people could speak to those. That'd be nice to hear those voices. We can zoom in what's happening in Europe. Right, so indeed, there's a lot of people. We had 63 people register, and around 40, I think it was 44, 45 were from European countries. Quite diverse, but definitely a lot of European countries. Yeah. So, but we also have, we've had some people from South America, from Mexico, US, I think South Africa, Rwanda, and Kenya as well. Peru. Okay. All right, so I'll ask a couple other questions before we wrap up, and then I'll give you guys a couple other pointers. So with this group, what do you think the geographic composition gives to the group? And are there also voices or perspectives that we might want to keep in mind that might not be represented? Any thoughts on that? So what does it mean with who is here? What does that give us as a group?
It means that our view is not as diverse as it could be, maybe. Like we have a lot of people from Europe. So it's good to keep that in mind, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. It's good to keep in mind that we have a lot of diversity within Europe, but outside of Europe, not so much. It's true. Yeah.
And Anna Maria here speaking. And yeah, besides the Eurocentric view, I think it's also, I mean, talking about the colonization before, it seems like a lot of people are from countries that have been in the past, like that left quite a historic imprint from this perspective, like colonizing other parts of the world.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much, Anna Maria.
I am Judith.
Yeah.
And I also don't know which methods you use to share. Like, I don't know which media sources you use to share the group, like the training. So I don't know, for example, in the Netherlands, maybe it works better Instagram and other sources, and other countries, others. So I don't know, also thinking about this.
Excellent. Okay, so communication, where was it circulated? Yes, it's a European funded course. So it was on a lot of European platforms for sure. Yeah, exactly. But we wanted to open it up to make sure that we had other voices present as well. Thank you very much. Yeah. What strengths do you think that this group offers with what it has, what we're seeing right now? Just the geographic.
Hi, this is Kate.
Yeah.
For us, it's a beautiful chance to connect with such a diverse group of people without having to travel very expensive far distances. So in Europe, it's more common to get a room full of diverse accents and people, but here in South Africa, that's less common. So it's a huge opportunity for us to connect to different cultures and different accents and different experiences.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kate. And you're with Redouane as well? Wonderful. Greetings.
And this is Nia speaking. And
Yep.
as far I can see, most of us lives by the sea.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so not a lot of continental people as well. Thank you very much. I didn't notice that. And Annabelle?
Hey, well, I just wanted to say that even if we're a lot of people from Europe, I can see also diversity. I mean, maybe smaller representation, but there's people from America, North America, South America. Then, yeah, we have Africa. I mean, that's still pretty diverse, I think. Maybe we have no one from Asia, do we?
Yeah, I think the time zone did not accompany. there's one star there, but yeah. So very good. Yeah. Well, we're
Actually,
very. Oh, sorry. Go, yep.
Sorry, I'm jumping in. Actually, I don't know who said that we are like a lot of people from like living near the sea. We are actually like Mediterranean group. So.
Yeah, very significant Mediterranean. Yes, excellent. Yeah, and I would agree, and I do also remark that we have people from Croatia, from Germany, from Hungary, from I think Malta as well, from Italy, from Greece, the UK, Ireland, Portugal, Spain, of course. Yeah, Morocco. So even within Europe, not including Morocco, obviously, there is quite a bit of diversity there as well. Okay, so this is an activity that we often use to have people, especially people who don't really like to talk, or if you have a really big group, this is really a safe and helpful activity to start having people get to know where they're coming from. So if you're in a physical space, then you can have them stand and talk from there, and you already start to get a sense of dynamics in the group, just from identity and identity related to place. So again, so creating the soil is all about identity, like where are we coming from? Who are we? Let's start to get to know each other. Building trust is enormously important at this phase as well. So one of the other things that we'd like to start with is our activities that have us reflect. You know, where are we coming from? Not just from the place that we were born or the place that we identify as home, which might be different, but also those milestones. So for the milestones, we had invited you over Slack to think about the different milestones. Sorry, I stopped the share. I don't know if anybody, sorry, before doing a transition, I don't know if anybody wanted to give any last comments on the map before I go into the next. Okay, we're good. Okay, sorry. So for the 10 milestones, I had asked you to think about some milestones that were extremely important in bringing you to where you are today. Okay, so those 10 perhaps most significant moments. If you don't have 10, that's okay. There can be 5. That shifted you or changed you in a way that set you on the path where you are today. So if you want to take some time, we'll give you a few minutes, maybe you can map them out, you can write them out. If you have pen and paper, we sometimes, this can be an exercise that if you have like a nice cushy training or with your classroom, you can even give it as homework or have the people really like use lots of colors and draw it out over 20 minutes. We're just going to do a really short intro and have you start reflecting on those 10 milestones. And then we're going and also identify 3 topics that you would really like to go into in depth in this course at some point. Okay, so if you can write down or draw in the next few minutes 10 milestones and 3 topics of significant interest to you. Yeah. And then we're going to break out into small groups and you're going to share those. And then we'll come back and we'll see what happens. Are there any questions on that? No?
Hi all, here's Jochen. I was wondering, the 3 topics you're talking about was out of the 4 main topics of the program or 3 topics that we are thinking about?
No, it can be really specific actually, Jochen. It can be, if you're doing bioconstruction, for example, you can say, you know, sustainable building. Yeah, it doesn't have to, it can be those general topics, but we would love to know the specifics, like what moves you. Yeah, super. All right, so let's give you, if 5 minutes is okay, just if you have a piece of paper, a pen, start writing things down, map it, draw it, and then we'll ring the bell and call you into groups.
How much time, Erika?
5 minutes.
For both?
Does that sound, yeah, 5 or 6 minutes. We can go until 5:05. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Sorry, hey, it's Juan. So
Yep.
Can you be more specific about these 10 milestones?
Absolutely. And you know what? And I will write it into the actual chat as well. So the 10 milestones are key moments in your life that made you where you are today in your journey as an agent of change. right? So it could be maybe you did a volunteer placement in a country, or maybe you did a university course, or maybe you met someone. Maybe you were standing on a mountaintop and something happened. Could be any one of those or something else. How are people doing? Do you need a couple more minutes or are you good? Oh yeah, there's some thumbs up. Yeah. so we got a couple. If you really need more time, if you can raise your hand wholly, and then I can. Yeah, okay, so it's maybe a couple other people, 3, 4. Okay, so maybe another minute or so.
Hello, Eureka. Hi, Kevin
Yep.
here. Sorry, can you remind me the 3 points?
So the 3, exactly. So the 3 points are the 3 topics that you would love to explore at some point in this training. So if you're really passionate about urban gardens or about solar panels or about decolonization, you know, so let's we would just love to get a sense of the topics that move you. Just a second, I have some. All right. Okay, so how is everybody now? All right, looks like we're good to go. Woohoo, super. Okay, so we will now break you out into groups of around 3 or 4 people. Okay, and you'll have a nice kind of cushy time. Well, I think we can give you around 15 minutes. Just a second, let me double check on the time that we have. Yeah. All right, so let's say just over 15 minutes, maybe around 16 minutes. So everybody can have a couple minutes to share their stories, and then you can, if you have some time left over, talk about the topics that move you. Okay, and we'll pop into the groups if you have any questions. But right now we'll just let you. All you have to do is click join to the breakout group, and you'll be put in with a group of 2 or 3 other people, and you can share a little bit your journey to become an agent of transformation, and the topics that move you with the small group. Any questions?
Erika,
Yes.
I think that you and Oscar will join a room, but you just leave it when it happens, and
exactly.
That's all. Okay.
That's fine. Yeah, that's cool. Thank you. All right.
Let's go.
Okay, so I think everybody's good. Is everybody good to go? All clear? Awesome. You guys are wonderful. Thank you. Okay, see you soon. 15 minutes, 16. There you go. Super awesome. Super. Okay, so any reflections before we start harvesting the 3 topics? Any things that you found interesting or that were inspiring, emergent in your group before we get to the next activity?
I can share some thoughts,
yeah.
Erika.
Yeah.
So yeah, I joined the first training session 1 hour late, so I do apologize. I see there are many, we are many people in this team. I share some experience, and I listened some experience from 3 of our colleagues, and I found very, very inspiring that we share a common element, which is social justice and understanding our situation around the world, and the willingness to bring change, positive change and impact. That was, I think, a shared element for the 4 of us.
Beautiful. Very true. Thank you so much, Laura. In fact, we found it fascinating. There were actually common themes in the motivational letters that really came out really, really starkly and beautifully. Yeah. So in these kinds of activities, thank you, Laura, for actually mentioning that, because in these activities, it's so fascinating to see what's in common and what is surprisingly different. Again, patterns and outliers. This helps us start thinking in patterns, start thinking systemically. Those two questions, and it's really surprising, but the more we try and map them out, what are the patterns or tendencies? What are the outliers? In Spanish, an outlier, I think, is un valor significativo y diferente. No, say it's when you have like all of these dots in the map, and then one that's way out there, that is remarkable. And those two things, patterns and outliers, are what help us identify leverage points. Okay, so we'll go really into detail in one of the classes, in a couple classes, I think, from now. But leverage points essentially are those magical points in the system. So say you have an unequal system here, and what activists, as we all know and have felt many times, do is often jump and try and put out the fires. There are so many fires all around us, and we really want to make sure they get out. So we're sometimes acting like firefighters and not as strategic agents of change, right? So what we're doing is maybe jumping on this spot right here instead of here. And with the same jump that you would do here, if you do it here, the system shifts. So you're doing it with less energy and you're generating way more impact. So two things that are definitely what we need for social and ecological transformation. So again, patterns and outliers. When you're having these conversations, right, just take a moment to reflect on what was bringing us together, like Laura said. So in her group, it was social justice, and what was amazingly, inspiringly different. And those are the two ingredients that we can pull as our collective forces for leverage points for change. Okay. So I don't know if there's, anybody else wanted to share a thought before we go to the next one? Yep.
In the small room I joined, actually everyone but me was living in a different country from where they were born.
Fascinating. Interesting. So it'd be really neat to go into what that means. Cool. Nice. Yeah. Okay, maybe we can have space for one more reflection before we get into the next one.
I think if I could go, Maria here.
Yeah.
So
and sorry, if we could also just to get the practice, if you can just say your name and maybe the organization or country you're from, just in the next couple of sessions, like today and next Mondays, just so we get more familiar because it's a big group.
Okay, Ana Maria from Romania, but living in the Netherlands, so kind of falling in the pattern that Rita was saying. Yeah, I also observed the pattern in our group. It seems like most of us had a very strong connection with nature and strong experiences since childhood. So it feels like, for example, me, like I grew up on a farm with my grandma, like in a subsistence. Like another Laura, I think she mentioned that she moved to an island with her parents when she was 12. So all this like kind of milestones that have really like in connection with nature that had really made an impact apparently.
Excellent.
From a young age. That's
exactly. All right. So transformative moments early on. Very interesting, Anna. Okay. So we'll leave that at that. I could really stay here for 4 hours and love to listen to all of them though. I have to rein myself in. I'm sorry. So now I would like to invite you to think on those 3 topics, okay, that you most would love to explore. And again, we will try and tailor as much as possible. We can't perhaps do everything, but we can adapt as much as possible. So Alex is going to put into the chat the link to the Mentimeter. And essentially all you have to do is click the Mentimeter link and you put in the 3 words or 3 topics that you're most excited about, that you want to explore more. And again, it could be something as conceptual or not, as decolonization or social justice, or something really practical like a skill that that you're interested in. Okay. Alex, has trovato?
Yeah. It's on the chat.
Oh, it is.
But
Okay,
it cannot be a long sentence, right? As I'm a long sentence person.
To find patterns, it's easier if it's shorter.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to start the presenting really soon. I'll give you maybe a minute or so to not condition your responses, and then I'll show you what's emerging. All right, I'll start sharing. So we're already starting to see some topics come out: community resilience, community engagement, community identity naming, social economy. Those are the big ones coming out. We also have social solidarity economy, ranking challenges, distracted minds, inner decolonization. Ooh, exciting. Resilience versus capitalism, nature and climate justice, collaborative working, youth, land restoration. Okay. All right, so what we'll do is we'll make a copy of this and upload it to Slack, and Oscar, Alex, and I, in preparation for next week, will look at it a little bit more closely and start grouping things and seeing what's coming out, what moves you. But before we do that, if anybody wants to comment on anything that they see in addition to what I've just shouted out as something that they see in terms of an important pattern, please shout it out, or even put it in the chat if you want. And we can harvest from there too. Okay. All right, so I'll just close that then. All right, so it seems like there's definitely a social and an economic trend. There's also some environmental persuasions, but it's actually interesting that there was a lot of social economy, which we're detecting more and more these days, which is exciting. Okay. There's a question, so I'll answer it now before passing it on to Oscar to do the regenerative spiral, development spiral. And the question is if this material is available in other languages. Everything in the WE land, we translated with a European project into, not French, sorry, Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, Catalan, English, and Hungarian. So being a very important language, I love it actually. And and also it's completely editable, hackable. And if you are interested in translating it into Romanian or into Croatian or into Swahili, Kiswahili, etc. We're very, very open to passing all the editable files on to you to do that. Okay. All right. Any questions before we go on to the next one? Good. Okay. So I'll pass it on to Oscar. Awesome. Thank you, Laura.
Okay. Then if we go back to Mural, we have 20 minutes left. Then we're gonna change a little bit the order. We're gonna start from the regenerative spiral, and then if we have enough time, we're gonna move in, introduce Buka for just as to start thinking about it, and we can continue next week. The regenerative spiral. You all guys have heard about the paradigm shift that we are living in, right? The thing is that some people had put some time into try to organize paradigms. There's not one paradigm, there's many paradigms, right? There's infinite paradigms. But the thing is that some people believe that we can organize the cultural pattern, the cultural paradigms in certain patterns. Have you heard about Maslow's pyramid? I'm sure that most of you have, right? Like briefly, he was saying that the evolution of people, of humans, are related to our needs, and the more we're capable of fulfilling our needs, the more we're capable of evolving. Then when we are actually struggling to survive, our capability of evolution it's short. But when we fulfill those needs, then we're capable of like going into and fulfilling emotional needs, then in recognition, and then we can transcend all of that and like go much more in responsibility and self-accountability. But then other people were actually going further in that and seeing that Maslow was talking a lot into a single person. But then there was another author from more or less the same time that was called Graves, and he said that if you have many people that it's in the same situation of the needs that are not fulfilled, then you create a whole culture of it. Then if a lot of people is actually trying to fulfill the surviving needs, food, shelter, basic health, then the whole culture it's based on that, right? And then you can find patterns of how these cultures are evolving. Then you can see how a culture evolves as well as people does. But obviously with nested systems and obviously projected in a much more complex way. Then looking at it from that perspective, here there's a proposal of 7 cultural paradigms. The lowest one, it's the trauma or collapse. It's when if there's a war in a community, then the whole community gets kind of a reset, a cultural reset, right? Like there's a lot of subtle things in a culture, and the more evolved the culture is, the more subtle things can you find in that culture. But in the moment that there's a trauma, a war, or a big crisis, all those subtle things just completely disappear. And because the people is just focusing on the big matters like food, shelter, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes those things are completely forgotten. Just think about when you think about your grandparents, right? And you think that they were much more sustainable than you, or they were much more self-sufficient than you. And they knew all those small things about those plants, or those very important things about nature. All those things had gone forgotten for this whole globalized and colonization that we had been living in the last decades. This paradigm, it's a paradigm that it's, if we put it in the development perspective, it's a paradigm where this community in relationship to nature, it's an extractive community. They just extract to survive, just get whatever it is. They see nature as a place of where to get resources. That's it. There's nothing else, not giving back, nothing else, because they're in a traumatic situation and they have to fulfill their basic needs. It's a selfish perspective, not in a judgmental way, but that's the position that this community or this culture is. If we go through the threshold of legality, we find the conventional practice. We all know the conventional practice. It's the culture, the paradigm where our culture had been the last decades. Probably now we would say that we're in the greenwashing paradigm mainly, but for many decades we had been in the conventional practice. That was more kind of a paradigm that they keep extracting everything, but they're bounded by the social democracy, like the limits that the state put to corporations or to municipalities, and that you have to do it because if not, it's illegal, and then you have to respond, right? And then there's at least those limitations that we probably would disagree with most of them, but still, that limit is there, and that means that power, it's not completely unbalanced. There's a certain amount of balancing out the excess of power that some people has in our societies. If we move one paradigm upwards, we would find the greenwashing. Greenwashing in the Maslow pyramid would be when we look for recognition. When what we're looking at is that whatever we do, we want to explain it in nice words. When we look at the environment, we would say that we're going to keep doing exactly what we were doing at the conventional paradigm, but this time we're going to change all the bulb lights, the light bulbs into LEDs. But we're going to keep doing exactly the same. Yes, we decreased a little bit the energy consumed that we were using, but we're still tending to collapse, right? If we keep going that way, we're just going to collapse. Yeah, this paradigm, it's a paradigm that it's in a way it's very annoying, right? Because you see Endesa and Repsol talking about telling us how to behave to be sustainable in the radio or things like that, and it's quite annoying when we see someone saying that, or a person that we know that it's not sensible, but it's a politician, a man politician, that it's not sensible, but talks us about feminism, and we see that it's very hypocritical. But there's one good thing about this, that these people, if they look for this recognition, it's because they have to. Because the society has more power. There's more power in the society, and we're pushing them to actually have to say those words, that now what we do is to go towards sustainability. Now what we do is to go towards feminism. That this paradigm is actually moving towards something else, but because we're pushing a little bit them to act that way. The sustainable paradigm, it's the one that most of us thinks that it's kind of the goal in our society. Most of the people think that sustainability is the goal that we have to reach, right? It's like, to not collapse, we need to get to sustainability. Well, definitely, getting to sustainability will help us to not collapse. But what it means to get to sustainability is that we would keep the world the way it is for a very long time, like forever, right? Like sustainability would take us to maintain this world, take it out of collapse and maintaining it forever. But it's something that it's not highly motivating. I don't know how you feel about that, but for me to wake up in the morning and be like, I'm going to try to maintain this world the way it is for the rest of my life, it's not super exciting. The sustainable paradigm, it's a paradigm that it's based on a lot of guilt. It's because it understands that we have been extracting and affecting nature and the community, and we assume that everything that humans do, it's bad. And therefore what we need to do is to do less, because we're bad people, and therefore everything that we need to just do less to do less damage. This is like the one of the most difficult paradigms to shift, and it's to go through the glass ceiling. that it would be actually the legitimate paradigm. We should never be below this line. Like being below this line, it's being in a non-healthy community. We always should be above. But that's the thing. At this point, our society believes that we should focus just on getting to sustainability, just to get at that border. But actually that border should be the lowest border, not the higher border. When we move upwards, we go to restorative. The restorative paradigm, it's the paradigm that we, when we look at nature, we still look at nature as an object, but as an object that we want to care. In sustainability, we see nature as an object that we want to conserve. We put it in natural parks, we cannot go there, and if we go there, we have to behave, we cannot change anything. It's very conservative. It's like a conservationist perspective. In the restorative, here we could put the degrowth moment. The growth moment, it's actually a moment that it's starting to think about changing, like it's doing more than good. In sustainability, we want to do good, because if we do good, we're not going to collapse. In restorative, we're going to do more than good. We're actually going to start changing the things that are bad and bringing them to something that it's positive. We're going to start thinking that we actually, as humans, we can give a positive impact to community and to nature, right? Then, this is like a very important paradigm, but it's a paradigm that where we actually get responsibility and accountability, and we get empowered, and we learn that we're actually capable of doing that we start believing in ourselves, and that we start walking in this planet as responsible humans. The next paradigm, the reconciliatory paradigm, it's when we actually realize that there's many more humans like us, and we start generating collaborations with all of them. And we create networks, co-ops, many different structures, one level, second level of structures. And when we look at nature, and this is all about collaboration, because when we do positive impact to the community community does positive impact towards us, and that's called collaboration. Then when many people, it's capable of generating different positive impact relationships, then we start to create networks and second level organizations that have a huge positive impact towards society and towards nature. In this case, in terms of nature, we could put permaculture. In many cases, we could put it here. Permaculture doesn't understand nature as an object. It understands nature as a subject, like that it's evolving, and that you put small things in permaculture. In nature, you do small shifts in nature to help nature evolve and to co-evolve together to create ecosystems that are healthy and harmonious. From the reconciliatory paradigm, we can even move one more, that it's the regenerative paradigm. And the regenerative paradigm, it's the one that actually, where in the reconciliatory paradigm, we said that nature is the subject, that we actually we learn to kind of dance together, right? It's us, the humans, and nature, an alive being, and we move together, we co-evolve. When we get to regeneration, what nature is, it's what we are. It's like a tree has landscape, or a tree is the landscape. Does a wolf has a landscape, or the wolf is the landscape? You know what I mean? In the regenerative paradigm, we are the landscape, we are nature, and when we move, nature is moving. When it's not even, we're not even thinking about doing any positive impact to nature, because there's nowhere to impact, because we are nature. Then when we impact, it's nature impacting, right? Do you know what I mean? Then this is kind of, it's when we reach this regenerative paradigm, everything, all the collapse, it's transcended. In the Maslow pyramid would be the higher one. Like Maslow, when all his life talked about 5 levels, I think. And before he died, he added the 6th level, that was the transcendence. Regeneration would be that level, where we actually transcend this mess that we have right now. And in that paradigm, we would start thinking about other challenges as humanity together from collaboration, looking other places, that it's not about collapse. Collapse would be not even like something that we need to talk about because it's not important anymore. We're actually growing and evolving as a planet all together. And when I say all, meaning all, animals, plants, everyone, like evolving the whole global community as one towards new challenges. Do I explain myself? Yeah?
Yeah, Oscar, you have a few questions here on the chat.
Okay, great.
From Annabelle.
Annabelle, could you please share the name of the other guy that instead of focusing so much on the individuals was focusing on observing groups and communities? Yeah, yeah, if you want to look further into that, there's Maslow. Then the contemporary of Maslow, it's Graves, but you're not going to see many things about Graves. Graves had a mentee that was called, I'm going to write them in the chat, Graves. Then he had a mentee that actually he was writing, he wrote some books about it, Don Beck. Don Beck was a counselor for Nelson Mandela in the democratization of South Africa. You also could find information about this, well, this is spiral dynamics with Ken Wilber. He also talks about it. Bill Reed, it's actually the guy that created the one that we're talking about right now, that it's the regenerative spiral, and the more modern one, it's Frederic Laloux that wrote a book called Reinventing Organizations that was a bestseller in 2017, and it's based on organizations, how to apply all of this into organizations, and it's a very didactical book. I don't know, is there any questions about the regenerative spiral? Like, you can really go deep into it, and actually what we wanted to ask you at the end to do a little bit of an exercise with this week with this model.
I wanted to ask actually, Oscar.
Yeah, sorry?
I wanted to ask Judith talking here, because you said now we are kind of in the phase of greenwashing, but I have the feeling that sustainability, the paradigm of sustainability itself is getting greenwashed. So it's like it's getting absorbed by capitalism and using sustainability in every, like they're using sustainability in sustainable consumerism. So you keep consuming. So I have the feeling that like sustainability is getting a bit like eaten by greenwashing.
Thank you, Judith. I completely agree with you. When we talk about the paradigms, we don't like greenwashing. It's very good at that. Like, it's not only sustainability. Now they're also taking regeneration and just using it to do exactly the same thing. Like, greenwashing does that to be able to not move, just grabs anything and changes the meaning to keep greenwashing. You know, to still keep having recognition. It's like, now we're the most sustainable of all, and keep going that way. But when we talk about the paradigms, we don't talk about that. They doesn't matter what they say. They're still on greenwashing. Like, so when we talk about sustainability, we talk about real sustainability. People that actually takes things seriously towards sustainability.
Hi, Eulalia talking here. I feel myself expanding my own paradigm because I have been hearing about regenerative
lifestyles and like this for a while, but I can feel in myself that maybe I had restorative thoughts or reconciliatory. Well, I don't know if we're gonna go more deeply into this into these terms or during the coming days, or is it something that we should look for ourselves or reflect on ourselves?
In the next session, we're definitely gonna go a little bit deeper into it. I would like just to make I'm aware of the time. I would propose that we do in a small exercise. Do you guys want to get one star and position the star where you believe that we all have more than one paradigm inside ourselves, right? And maybe when we are in our family, we act from one paradigm. When we are in our work, we act from a different paradigm. And when we are with our friends or with our organization or with the social movement that we go, we act from a different paradigm. But simplifying and knowing that we're doing it, simplifying, could you position where is the paradigm that you believe that you act most of the time?
And if you have difficulty moving the star, or you can make it into a sun or whatever, and you can put it on the spiral or on the word itself, notice how the spiral goes up, but it goes down first before going up. And this is a very natural behavior of a system as well. The same with the degenerative pattern, it goes up and then down and vice versa. If you have trouble putting your star somewhere, please just write it in the chat and then Alex can help position it. And then we'll see the patterns and outliers because that's the topic for today, is systemic thinking and pattern language. And then we'll introduce the clopening for next week. So as Eulalia had correctly asked, are we going to go deep into it? Absolutely. This is the foundation. This is the heart of the Community Catalyst course. And we'll be really applying this in many, many aspects over the next 12 weeks and going into what does restorative mean? What does reconciliation mean? What does sustainability mean? So those are excellent questions that you're raising right now. Thank you so, so much.
Is there time for still a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Of course.
Because I'm there with a vertical axis, and I got from the chat that it means complexity of the system. Okay.
Yes.
Does it mean then that trauma and collapse is more complex? The system is more complex or less complex? Like, how do I look at that?
Okay. Did you heard about the edge of chaos?
Just now when you mention it.
Okay, awesome. Okay, very briefly, okay? The edge of chaos, it's something that says, it's a theory that says that in one side we have something that it's a structural, rigid, that cannot move. In the other side we have chaos, right? In this example, rigidity would be a military system, like a military troop. And the other side, we would have like a social movement that it's like, that have no organization, that it's mainly chaotic and it's just like a protest, no? That people, it's not even organized completely. They just go there, they have their own actions to do and they have a common goal. But then when it's done, it disappears because there's nothing that holds it together. But when we put these two together, we have a structure and we have chaos. And that is complexity. When you put chaos and structure, you get complexity. A forest, when you look at the forests, you cannot say that there's no structure in a forest because it's plenty of it. But you cannot say either that there's no chaos in the forest because it's plenty of it. Life, it's based on complexity. It's a structure and chaos living together because that it's what actually it's capable of generating patterns of life. When we are at trauma, we have structure and cause very separated. And for example, a dictatorship would be collapse or trauma, where you have like a very strong authority and a lot of chaos around it. And the more we go upwards, the more we mix them up. Like that's why when we get to greenwashing, the structure it's more complex, and then these people, what we were saying, these people, they don't have so much power because the power is more distributed. And that's also why when we jump, we go through the glass ceiling, we take more responsibility as a community. Each of the people in the community is responsible. This is highly complex. It's starting to be highly complex. Everyone it's responsible. And then because we're all responsible, we can do something else. That it's like creating connections with all these responsibilities and start to create networks of asymmetric responsibilities. That's reconciliation. And from there, we can create like a huge network, a completely new paradigm based on accountability and responsibility in an asymmetric perspective, and that's regeneration. That it's highly complex, and highly complex means resilient. When you have a highly complex system, it's a system that it's capable of holding very well the different crises.
Okay.
Yes.
That was very interesting resume. Thank you.
Okay.
So, and Oscar, maybe you have some seconds to explain the other coordinate, the energy. What does it mean, energy needed?
The energy, it's because when we talk about if you're below the line, you see that the spiral is already going towards the changing also the vertical line. It's because when you're below, the energy the system needs energy. The lower it is, the more extractive it is. Like, no? Right now, we are in a moment that we need tons of energy to maintain our status quo of life, and we keep extracting and extracting and extracting, and we need to take energy away from what the planet had been rooting. Like the main source of energy that we have is the sun. And one of the expertise of life is to take the energy of the sun and root it on earth in very different ways. But what we have at the end is like ways to make that energy of the sun is super efficient and start going cycling and cycling and cycling many times in the ecosystem before disappearing. But our society, what does is to take this energy and extract this energy to live, right? Then the lower we are, the more energy we need to live. But when we cross the line and we go above the glass ceiling, means that we're starting to act as life. And then we get the energy of the sun and we're rooting it on earth too. And then what we're generating is abundance. What we have below is the scarcity paradigm. What we have above, it's the abundance paradigm, where we all bring this energy, we root it on place, and then we share it with each other. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Most of the people, that's really cool. That most of the people, it's rooted above the glass ceiling. That's already a paradigm shift. That's already a lot of people capable of generating a lot of relationships and collaborations from a different perspective. That's nice.
And a lot of honesty as well, you know, like, and people opening. Yeah. So maybe to start wrapping up, we will keep this link open and we can post it onto the Slack as well. So you can visit the slides and see where people are from. But we would like to give you some homework. And we can also outline the homework in the Slack itself. And it's going to be 2 bits. One is, no, sorry, Maya. No, not that people lie, but also that people are like really reflective here. that you know, some people weren't afraid to say, no, I'm below the line here, and that's excellent. Yeah, that's really good that we have people just not afraid to say where they are. That's beautiful. So for next week, we would like you to take this model, and you can write it down on a piece of paper. We also have them uploaded on the drive, and you can print one out. But what we'd like you to reflect on are how this spiral relates to your local community. Okay. And because this, again, like, and we really approach the entire 12 weeks from a decolonial perspective. And so that also means that each of these levels is different depending on where you are, right? So if you are in Croatia, or you are in South Africa, or you in a Haudenosaunee community in Canada, or wherever, you know, a rural village in Ireland, then then these paradigms are they're different, right? You can perceive them differently. So we would like you to explore what below the threshold of legality means, right? What does conventional practice mean where you're from? Okay, so maybe it's a rural community, maybe it's an urban community, maybe it's a small community within a big city like London. What does sustainability look like where you are? What is that glass ceiling of legitimacy look like? Which is, and again, what Oscar was saying, like these lines here, the threshold of legality and the glass ceiling of legitimacy, are the most difficult to cross. So when we see a country that's in conventional practice, I always just celebrate because it means that they've overcome a significant trauma or collapse, and that is a good starting point, right? So again, in your community, what does restorative look like? What does reconciliation look like? What does regenerative look like? Restorative, reconciliatory, and regenerative are probably going to be the hardest because they're not very common and maybe don't exist at all. And that's okay, all right? Because these are quite emergent. So yeah, Oscar, you wanted to add something there.
Yeah, just a small thing. It's like when with the course in the university that we did, we went to our region and we looked for the different paradigms in the region. Then when we looked in the, we took the students and we took them to the first was to the slaughterhouse, the pig slaughterhouse, where they kill 11,000 pigs every day, and most of the people that work there are immigrants. That's like clearly a conventional practice. Then we went to a greenwashing place that was like an industry that was pretty much conventional, but that had tons of solar panels in it and was trying to kind of look green and cool. But then we were kind of trying to analyze all the conventional practices there and all the kind of inconsistencies, but also recognizing the effort, right? Then we went to sustainability. We went to the natural park that we have, and we looked at it and how people relate to nature. It's like, you have to go through the path. You cannot get out of the path because you cannot go into nature. Because if we go into nature, we're going to destroy everything. Then it's like trying to look, how is this paradigm working? No, tourists come here, they walk into nature for the path that we give them. Okay, and then we went to restorative. We went to a place that was restored, actually because of the social movement. The social movement took a lot of responsibility and said that you're gonna have to stop that destructive business, and you're gonna have to change this and make it in a natural place. And that actually happened, but it's restorative because it was from the initiative of the people. The people got together and said, you have to stop. And they could create a restorative spot. And then the reconciliatory, you can find spots of reconciliatory in this permaculture farm, in that agroecological farm, in a place where there's a consumerism co-op. Like, you can find different places where people with responsibility co-organized to create structures. right? And regenerative, it's somehow difficult to find, but let's see if you find something.
Okay, so we'll leave it at that because I know that we've gone 12 minutes over and we really wanted to end on time today. So we'll explain, sorry, thank you, the homework also very clearly on the Slack itself, but essentially again, like identify your community, define the paradigms and how you perceive them in your community. And then we'll give you another very quick exercise to do that's kind of fun. It's called the VUCA context, and we'll just explain it step by step, also in preparation for next week. I'm going to stop the share just to see everybody's faces. Maybe before we go, if everybody wants to give a nice smile for the camera. Oh, we've got a little one here too. Wonderful. Okay, so we're going to do some print screens. 1, 2, 3. Yay. Okay, wonderful. Great. Thank you so much. So we will see you. Oh, sorry, I didn't get the whole thing. Again, 1, 2, 3. I love it. Wonderful. Okay, so so for next week, we'll really start deep diving into the material. And again, what we'll be doing is uploading the session plan. So you also have, for the teachers amongst us, how we teach some of these activities with groups. Okay, all right. Any questions in terms of next steps? Are we good? Okay, so huge pleasure to see so many wonderful diverse faces here, and some of them known from past and present, so that's very cool too. And we'll connect next week. All right.